you saw them girls on the beach in them lime green bikinis, those blue bikinis, those pink bikinis, those orange bikinis. All of a sudden, the danger of wrestling in Puerto Rico, it really didn't matter. Okay, today on Tales of the Territories, we're going to be talking about Caribbean Championship Wrestling. Puerto Rico, the World Wrestling Council, where the head boss at that time was pretty much Carlito Colon, Carly's father, Carlos Colon. This was 1989, and little Carly, he was a little kid there hanging around. Now this was 1989 when I went there. Carlos called me while I was home in Seymour, Indiana, getting ready to go into the Maritimes, but he talked me into coming down to Puerto Rico to fly in there, and he was going to let me work in the office, and he wanted me to help him out with some bookings, some finishes, etc. So I said, well, hell, what the hell? So I canceled the Maritimes, flew right on out to San Juan, Puerto Rico. Then all of a sudden, Victor Quinones picked me up there. Victor was a minority owner in the office there. He picked me up and took me to the good old Tanamah Hotel. That's right. The good old Tanamah Hotel was about 600 yards from the ocean. It was about 3 blocks away from Orlando Perez's gym. So that's where I was going to be training every day. And about 200 yards from the Chinese buffet that was open every day. So I was going to get my fill of Chinese food. So I went from Seymour, jumped in, from Seymour, drove to Indianapolis, went to the airport, took the big bird, flew into San Juan, Puerto Rico, and all of a sudden I'm there. I'm ready to start.
Listen, Savinovich, I know you're the greatest TV announcer in the world of professional wrestling, but I am your co-host, and there's no...
So I got to go meet Carlos at the office. So I go there, I meet Carlos, I meet Jose Gonzalez, I meet Victor Quinones, I meet Victor Jovica, who owned most of the points in the office, and they told me what they wanted to help them with. So we got that all straight. So there I was in Puerto Rico, in San Juan, where most people were bilingual, but a lot of the girls would act like they couldn't understand you. Then all of a sudden they could understand you, so they sort of had you. But anyway, let's take a look at some of the heels there. First of all, the first person to come see me was Jonathan Holiday. Jonathan Holiday was their junior heavyweight champion, and we stayed some together there at the Tanamah. I was always paying early. A lot of the boys would sort of hang around doing this or that, but I like to pay early. And the Tanamah was a place where usually there was about 20 cats out in the back where they was eating the scraps and the trash and stuff. And I became the people called me the cat man because I'd always be walking towards the beach and I'd feed the cats. So they would be a big old line of cats follow me to the beach. So not only did they have the girls in the bikinis in there, but the cat man was there. When I first come in, hell, there was Ivan Koloff, the ex-old WWF champion. He'd come into Puerto Rico. There was a Buddha Dean who was Curtis Iakea's son, which was Rocky Iakea. And him and I were the World Tag Team Champions. Kendo Nagasaki, Sakurada, he was in Louisiana with me when I was working for Bill Watts. And then here he is with his old Trans Am, and he's speeding up and down the streets in Puerto Rico. Now, the manager there was El Profe. He was the manager of me and the Buddha Dean. And then there was Chicky Star. Chicky Star had been there for years, and he was a great talent. The biggest guy there was Strangler Steve DeSalvo. Strangler Steve DeSalvo was one of the guys that was trained by Red Bastine, and I'd been with Strangler Steve DeSalvo in Puerto Rico, so we knew each other. And Steve was a guy that would get emotional a lot. I used to call him Mr. Sunshine because Steve was always in a bad mood. Not only did he weigh over 300 pounds and have the 23-inch biceps, he would be towed around. His girlfriend would be pulling him by the ear. And anyway, in Puerto Rico, Abdullah the Butcher was always coming in to Puerto Rico. Abdullah the Butcher was a legend there. He was feuding with Bruiser Brody, but since Bruiser Brody was now out of the picture, he was feuding with Carlos Colon a lot. But Abdullah was always a trip. You knew with Abdullah there was always going to be blood, and there was always going to be some controversy. As he was always in the red light district, and all the girls knew him by name. On the babyface side of the coin, a guy from the United States who was really jacked, the White Angel. He was Firebreaker Chip in WCW after that, but he got his big break in Puerto Rico because he was young and he was jacked. Victor Jovica, he worked on the babyface side, and he was the majority stockholder of the Puerto Rican Territory. Now, he would work the first match, and even though he was the boss, he'd put guys over to make them stars. He wasn't in it about ego. He was in it about making money. Carlos Colon, he was a part owner. He was their top star. He was always working against the top heel. He had been there for years and years. People loved him, and he was box office magic. The Invaders 1, 2, and 3, they were there. Now Jose was the one who had murdered Bruiser Brody. He was there in the office. He was sort of low key at this time since the stuff with Brody had just taken place, and he didn't say too much. TNT, Savio Vega, Juan Rivera, he was there, and he had started out working the security there at the matches, and he had a good WWF run. But when we were in Puerto Rico in Caguas, we had a 1-hour match one night in Caguas, and it was a draw. And we went out there. T just shut the fuck up. I told him what to do. We had a great match, and he says, "I can't believe we went 60 minutes tonight. I became a wrestler." I said, "Sure, you sure did, T."
Look at me get down. Look at me get dirty. Look at me get bad. And watch me hit him with this chair because I'm going to smash his head.
Then the Batten twins were there. Brad and Bart Batten. They were a good tag team there. Hurricane Castillo Jr., Ricky Santana, Miguelito Perez, all these guys we worked against when me and Abudadeen were tag team champions. We worked with these guys a whole lot. Now, the style in Puerto Rico, let's just say it was a little bit different. If you were just an American going in there, you're going to find out. Usually, they would have guys dressed up as like in soldier stuff, and they're putting their bodies over you because people are throwing rocks at the bad guys. They're throwing bottles at the guys, etc. So it was a little bit dangerous there in Puerto Rico. When I was there, they had Hurricane Hugo. When they had Hurricane Hugo, we had to shut down for about 3 days. And I went to the middle of the island. Some guy I'd met at the restaurant, he took me out to his place. Now, he was an old Vietnam vet, and he had a big old car. So we drove out, and we stayed at his house in the middle of the island. So what'd we do? We had a buffet, give ourselves a wank, and he started drinking. I didn't have any drinking, so I got a couple of Valium from him and took that. So I said, well, I'm going to go to sleep. I got a full belly. I give myself a wank, and then I'm looking up. It felt like the room was going to blow off. Then I wake up in the morning. I look around. He's still in the bed sleeping. I walk outside. The birds are chirping. The sun is out. There's trees blown everywhere. It looked like a bomb had went off. Hurricane Hugo was gone. So finally, I wake the guy up, and he's going to take me back downtown to the hotel. As we're going downtown, all of a sudden we stop and look. We're sitting there looking, and we're seeing all these people Puerto Ricans are basically robbing the stores and stuff. I'm going, holy shit, this is exciting. So we're just sitting there watching and laughing. Then all the police come out. As the police are coming out, woo, 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 off goes all the robbers. Then all the robbers are ran off. Then the police, they start going into buildings and they start taking shit. Wow, this is even more of a movie. Then all of a sudden, about 20 minutes later, the National Guard comes in. The National Guard comes in and they run the police off. So we went from the Puerto Rican people robbing all the businesses downtown. We went to the police robbing the business downtown. And then we went to the National Guard. And hell, I don't even know if they were the good guys or the bad guys because there were so many people running around, yelling and screaming, doing this and that. I just shook my head. But making it back down to the hotel, when I got down there, there was like 6 inches of water in the Tanama Hotel. So went back out to the middle of the island, stayed with a guy for a week. He took me to the towns, this and that. But we made it through Hurricane Hugo with no deaths or anything. At least I didn't die. And he had that old that car would had to and he would just run through the branches and the half-ass trees in the road because he was in the middle of the island. So you knew something like that in Puerto Rico was always going to happen. The nightlife at Puerto Rico, there was places to gamble all the time. Seems like there was a whorehouse, a house of ill repute on every corner. The girls were working outside. Then they had parts of the city where they would have the girls working, but they weren't girls. So they had the tranny section of town. So some of the boys, and we'd get some of the green boys that would come in, and we'd take them down there. They might have to have some kind of sexual extravaganza going on, and they would relieve themselves, drain themselves of bodily fluid. But they didn't know that the girls that they thought were girls were really not girls, and they were sort of like guys dressed up as girls. And but anyway. But that was in Puerto Rico, and some of the guys knew, some that they didn't know, but it was always good to rib the young guys and get a chuckle out of it. We had a TV show that played Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon there. And it was in Spanish. Then we had a 2-hour show that was on Saturday and a 1-hour show on Sunday.
The fans are writing me already, and I got a letter here from some girl named Elsie, so you can tell that when you have the hustle, Rip Rogers as a...
Now, I was the American guy that spoke on the English speaking on the 1 hour of the Saturday thing. So, yes, I knew Spanish. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco. ¿Cuántos años tienes tú? And ¿dónde está el cuarto de baño? And Tango Hombre. But besides that, I didn't know much Spanish. So, but I was the king of the English speaking TV there with Rick St. James. So I was over on that island because I was on TV all the time. I was training at the gym with Rolando Perez, who was Mr. Puerto Rico. I got the guest pose at the Mr. Puerto Rico, had the greatest time wrestling, but I learned a little bit about how dangerous it was right there. And would they throw stuff at you? Yes. Would they try and knife you if they could? Yes. But you would have those tremendous, tremendous crowds, like at Hiram Bithorn Stadium. You might have 20,000, as I would say, crazy, screaming Puerto Ricans.
And this is a riot, a full-scale riot. You see the fans going crazy. You see Savage going crazy. You see...
And they love their pro wrestling. They love their lucha libre. They love Carlos Colon. And they hated all the all-American white boys. So they hated me. They hated Strangler Steve DeSalvo. And we was always riding together. And Strangler Steve, we went to the office one day, and he was so pissed off about a payoff. He took his shirt off, a big old Hawaiian shirt, and Steve had that 56-inch chest, and he threw it on the ground. So, and I was always riding a Buddha Dean. It was me, a Buddha Dean, and Strangler Steve DeSalvo. We made all the trips together. So when we went to the office and got our checks, we were all there. So I took Steve's Hawaiian shirt and put it on me, and I wouldn't give it back to him. So the rest of the time I was there, for about another 9 months, I wore Steve DeSalvo's blue Hawaiian T-shirt every day. Now, and when I trained at Rolando Perez's gym, I guest posed at the Mr. Puerto Rico. So I went in at weighed in at 232 when I started. And all of a sudden, I guest posed at 197. So I use this as a motivational tool to lose some weight again. Just went back to training like a bastard, eating the way you're supposed to eat instead of eating when you are now, and actually guest posing at the Mr. Puerto Rico, that was cool. That was fun. That was one of the highlights of my life.